I happened to be walking over at the park all the time, and every now and then I'd see Paul over there taking photographs. I mean, he was very carefully standing there, mostly taking photographs of dragonflies. But we started meeting again, and then voila, next thing I know, he's got the cover of my book. So, Paul Licce.
Thank you. I do want to say about the ducklings. You've got a second poem in there about ducks.
Yeah. I have several.
Ducklings, and it's actually more about that brood. This brood was 9.
Okay.
And your other poem does reflect the 9, and it was so interesting because people were walking, and I ran into, there were 2 people that I'd see every day, and we'd always say, there's still 9, there's still 9. So there are 9 in that photograph. Looks like 7. It's really hard to count.
They're hard to count.
They are, because they're little dark kids. But I thought it was interesting that I forgot to mention to you that I was doing because you do have the second poem in there. As Scott said, we worked together many years ago, and what happened was this past summer, we'd been running into each other at Mueller quite a while. I live just north of Mueller, Scott lives just south of Mueller, and I've been walking in Mueller since before there were even houses built there. They built the trails first, so I was over there with my camera 7 or 8 years ago when when it was nice and quiet, and there were a lot more wild birds in the ponds at that time. The people have sort of scared a lot of them away. But so this summer I was there. I wanted to do just a series of dragonflies for East Austin Studio Tour this year. So I was just patiently waiting by the lake pretty much every morning, and Scott and I ended up running into each other often this past summer. And I think that's what put him in his consciousness to give me a call to ask if I had any photographs I'd like to submit. So I was really pleased because I think we sort of use Mueller as our muse very similarly, and I didn't really realize that. You know, they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I think a picture is worth at least 14 lines. Maybe that's the new way to think about a picture. You know, the economy of the sonnet. I think I'm going to aspire to that now. If I can get across in a photograph what Scott can do in 14 lines, I'm going to be really pleased. So I've been over at Mueller. The reason I do photography is I think very similar again to what writers and what Scott, you know, I strive to just stay awake. And being out in in nature is a great way to wake up. And if I've got a camera in my hand and a lens, it helps me focus. And so it focuses me right in on the moment and allows me to really look at things that I may not look at otherwise. It just sort of creates that awareness. And it's interesting, Scott, hearing you say that you would stop and people would look at you as you were scribbling. If I've got a camera in my hand, people sort of understand what I'm doing. If I'm just out walking and I want to stop and gawk at something, which I will do oftentimes, and if I don't have the camera in my hand, they think I'm, the crazy person that's looking up at a bird, for 5 minutes waiting for it to come around the other side of the trunk. But if I've got a camera in my hand, they understand what I'm doing. So it kind of gives me the license to be pokey and to stop and look.
I should have a camera around my neck.
That would help. Yes. That would probably be an easy thing to do. So the fun part about photography now is not just being out in the field, but the thing about digital photography in these days is all of the freedom that we're given in editing and all of the different things we can do. It's not such a perfect photograph, but we get home and put it on the computer and bring up Lightroom, which is a great piece of software, and we can change and manipulate an image and add our own sort of interpretation to a scene by changing the light, changing the tones, changing, we can change the mood. And so that's one of the things that I appreciate doing and have fun doing. And that's what I did with the cover of the book. The photograph is back there. It was just a gray background. It was a blackbird in a redbud tree, and it was a gray day, but it was a neat spot, neat photograph, I thought. but it was really kind of boring with just the gray background, or it said something different. So there's another piece of software I use that's very similar to Photoshop. It's called Own One, which is kind of a new software. And so it allows you to put different filters on there. And I put that one on, and it sort of warmed up the whole thing. And when Scott called or emailed me and told me the name of his book of sonnets, immediately that image came to mind, and it was the first one that I put on the group that I sent him. So that's really, I don't have much else to say about it. I just love being behind the camera. And it's been really, I so appreciate Scott inviting me along on his little ride here. It's given me another sort of a validation of spending time behind the camera, because if I could write as well as Scott does, I would love to be able to do that. So it's shorthand, I guess, the photograph is. So if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer anybody's question. That's really pretty much all I have to say. Yes, ma'am?
What kind of camera do you use?
I have a Nikon D7100. And it's really more about the lenses than it is about the camera. And a photography teacher told me that, and it was like, yeah, but I just kept wanting to get a better and better camera. And just recently, Nikon put some of their lenses on sale, and I bought a lens that costs more than my camera. And it's true. It's like, it is really amazing that the lens, it's the glass that makes such a difference. That really has changed the way I look at stuff through that lens.
What's the lens?
Pardon?
What's the lens?
The lens is the 105 micro, 2.8. Yeah.
I got a 7100 too.
Okay, okay. Do you have what lens do you use?
I actually have the Keen equivalent of that. It's a little cheaper, but it's still a pretty nice lens.
Yeah.
It's a 100 macro.
Yeah.
Great.
Those three pictures in the middle there, I mean, it made me look at things differently. Looking through a macro lens completely changed the way I looked at things. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a D3100, but I'm just, really starting to try some different things. And I have Adobe Elements. And what would you, is that a good place to start for a beginner, or?
I find that harder, actually.
Because to me, it's hard. It's like,
it is hard.
I'm like pretty good at picking up things, and I'm having a lot of problems with
Yeah, I tried Photoshop for a while, and I tried Elements, and Lightroom is really, Lightroom is to me a lot more intuitive. And have you gleaned the, I've learned so much on YouTube.
Well, I'm starting to do that too, but I was finding that I thought, well, is it me because it's not intuitive?
No, it's not intuitive. Yeah, I would really say Lightroom, and it's right now you can get Lightroom and Photoshop $9.99 a month.
Yeah, that's the way I want to do it.
And it's and so you always have the updated version. I bought the standalone copy, but I think when they come out with the next Lightroom, I probably will do the month to month.
I'm going to try that. Thank you.
Sure.
Is Lightroom an independent or free? Standalone program, or do you have to have Photoshop or any of the other ones?
No, that's a great question. It is a standalone. You don't have to have Photoshop.
Is it Adobe?
It is Adobe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
When did you start taking photos?
Really, in my little blurb that I put on the website for Malvern, I got a Polaroid swinger in the 8th grade for graduation. And I fell in love with taking pictures with a camera. And so I got a film camera when I was out of graduate school. I didn't have a camera. I wanted a film 35 for a long time. And I finally bought one after I got my first job. And I shot with a film camera. So I've really been taking photographs since the 8th grade, since I had my Polaroid swinger. Yeah.
How do you make your prints?
I don't print myself. I use Precision to print my photographs.
Do you have any do's or don'ts rule? Like I won't take a leaf out of a picture, or bend a branch down. Do you have anything like that you say, I'm not going to do that?
Nothing like that.
Okay.
I am totally after the, it's like I am not a purist about any of it. You know, a lot of people will come from film photography and they go, oh, you don't do all that manipulation. I'm interested in the final product, and so if you have to set up a scene, set up a scene. My back, right now I'm really in the photographing birds, and I've got a little tableau on my back, my back deck that I've set up that looks like kind of a natural setting. And it's not. It's something that I've created. But I think it's perfectly okay we're after the final image. It's like putting that filter behind that bird. Some photographers would frown at that and say that's not photography. I think it's all about getting the final image.
It's art. There's no
exactly.
rules, that's
yeah,
what I think.
me too. Okay, thank you. And they all are for sale. There's a price list back by the desk there in my cart, and I have a very limited website. I'm using Facebook right now for my website. But help yourself to look around, please, and I'll be glad to answer any other questions. Thank you.